strive to be better. When you can't compete with the other retailers and your competition, when you can't compete with them, and you've borrowed so much money that you can't exist, you can't pay it off anymore, you have to liquidate. You have to. Somebody else now is going to own all your books, all your buildings, all your nice signs, all that nice coffee. Somebody else is going to own it, but it won't be you. Why doesn't the American government listen to that? Why don't our politicians understand that that's how it's done? And at some point, you can't keep borrowing more debt. You can't do that. Why won't they? I don't understand. The big thing, I've been in Kenya for a couple weeks, and I've tried to keep track of a little bit of news, but when I come back, I'm looking at it and I'm going, there's a big thing going on in Washington, D.C. right now, and they're fighting over whether or not we should actually borrow more. They're called raising the debt ceiling. Here's one article. GOP leaders ignore Obama's deadline. House Republican leaders have missed a 36-hour deadline President Obama set during a Thursday meeting for lawmakers to give them a plan to avert national default. The deadline came and went Saturday morning without a response from House Speaker John Boehner. Instead, Boehner and House Majority Leader Eric Cantor plan to move the Cut, Cap, and Balance Act on the floor next week, which would require passage of a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution before the debt limit is raised. Now, let me stop right here. Here's another one. Moody's suggests U.S. eliminates debt ceiling. Ratings agency Moody's, this is one of the big dogs now, on Monday suggested the United States should eliminate its statutory limit on government debt to reduce uncertainty among bondholders. In other words, let me stop right here. I'm not an economist, and some of this stuff just way over my head, but some things I get. By law, the United States of America, by law, says we can only borrow so much money. Okay, it's called the debt ceiling. And we can't borrow another penny over that. It's against the law. Now, over the years, they decided, well, let's raise that a little bit. Oh, no, let's raise that a little bit. No, now we need to go a little bit higher. Okay, and I don't know what it is now, but it's way, way up there in the trillions of dollars. They were astounded in Kenya. I took my iPad, and I had a little app on here that exchanges currency, gives you the currency rate, because in Kenya they don't use dollars, they use Kenya shillings. And I pronounced to them the amount of debt America owes, something like $13 trillion, whatever. The amount of money the United States of America owes right now, and I converted that to shillings, and their eyes went. They couldn't believe that our country, they think America is rich and wealthy. We got money everywhere, and that's true, but it's not our money. It's somebody else's money. We borrowed the money. It would be like if I didn't have anything and I wanted to act like I was rich, I'd go and borrow $100,000, and I spent it all on myself to make myself look real nice and everything like that. Wow, man, you must have hit it big. You must be doing well. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. But it's not my money. I just borrowed it, and really, if I don't pay it back, then I stole it. And America has all this debt, and we have a debt ceiling that says we can't borrow this much money. And Obama says, you know what, we need to raise the debt ceiling because I have a whole lot more social programs and a whole lot more, what was it he called it before the election? Share the wealth. I have a whole lot more money of your money that I want to share with everybody else, okay? And so we need to raise that. We need to borrow more money, or we're going to be in really bad trouble if we don't. Now Moody's is saying, you know what, let's just get rid of this stupid law that says we can only borrow so much money. Let's just borrow whatever we want to. Let's just have a big party. Let's make our grandkids suffer for it. That's what they're saying. We need to. I don't get it. I don't get it. We don't understand. I was asking somebody this the other day. How come some politicians think that we can spend money that we don't have? I wasn't raised that way. The sad thing of it is, most of America is now being raised and conditioned to think that we can actually live on money that we don't have. With all the borrowing, the whole financial problems that started with this country started with the housing market. People thinking that they deserved a house better than the one they were living in. And people were saying, oh, I think I should have a piece of the American dream. And in their mind, the American dream was looking like you were rich. That wasn't the American dream. The American dream was the fact that anybody, whether they were white, black, middle class, poor, Hispanic, doesn't matter. Anybody who came to this country could work hard, educate themselves, and make something of themselves, whether it was rich or not. But now we've adopted this idea that the American dream is to have lots of money and 2 cars and 3 cars and a pool and everything. Have all the things that realistically we can't afford. That's the American people. And so then we elect the politicians that reflect that. And now the politicians say, oh, we're too big to be brought down. We need this. We need to borrow money. We need to do this. We need to do that. And we're living off money. And we're spending money that doesn't belong to us, that we didn't work to create. That's what we're doing in this nation. And it's going to kill us. At one time in this nation, God bless this nation, we actually had more money than we had a need for, because God blessed this nation. Deuteronomy 28, I was studying that this week and just going back over Deuteronomy 28, and I can tell you every time I read that, I know I see the nation of Israel there, but every time I read Deuteronomy 28, I see the United States of America. I see it in there. It's very plain to me. You go back, go read it. You want to know the history of America? Read Deuteronomy 28. You want to know the future of America? Read Deuteronomy 28. At one time, America had God's laws in their mind. And I'm not saying that America was full of all these great Christians. But there were some good Christian denominations and Christian churches in this nation that the revival spirit was in, and we're the nation that sent missionaries all over the world to preach the pure gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm not really doing it. I've been to Africa. I've seen what the American missionaries have brought over there. And I told them, we need to get rid of these Bibles here. We need to get rid of this false doctrine here. You want God to bless you, get some of this junk out that some of these Americans have sent over here. But at one time, we had the law of God in our hearts. People respected the 10 Commandments. They respected God's laws. Whether they totally lived by them or not, they knew that it was right and wrong. And God blessed this nation. In Deuteronomy 28:12, here's what the Lord said. He said, the Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, and the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all the work of thine hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. God said, you're going to have so much that other nations are going to come to you and say, can we borrow some money? And you're going to say, sure, why not? We want to help out. Okay, we have plenty. But God said, when you turn your back on me and you take the 10 Commandments that used to be in the courthouse and you throw them out, and you take the 10 Commandments that used to be in the schoolhouse and you get rid of those, saying, we can't have our kids seeing that. That's terrible. God says, when you do that, I'm going to like turn it all around. And all the things that I said that I was going to bless, I'm not going to bless anymore. I'm going to curse them. And all these people that were strangers to you. Look at what he says in Deuteronomy 28:43. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. And he shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. And he shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. God said, oh, you were lending all this money out. And you know what? That's the funny thing. We still are. We're lending money to Kenya. We're lending money to other African nations. We're lending money to Europe. The funny thing is that wasn't our money that we're lending out. We're lending out money that we borrowed from somebody else. Who is that? Well, the number one nation, and there's others, and you start to think about, who do we owe the money to? We owe the money to the banks. We owe the money to other nations. One of them is China. China. China used to be the poorest nation in the world. I mean, there's people like we're eating dirt, okay, drinking dirty water and all that. That used to be the poorest nation in the world, and now for some reason they're the wealthiest nation in the world. And you know, are they really our friends? No, they can't be our friends. Okay, it's a communist nation, and this and that. All the businesses are run by communists. We reported here a few weeks ago how that China all of a sudden is building these market centers outside of these towns, and they own the property, and they're building the businesses, and they're building the factories, but they're not paying any taxes to the United States government or the state government. They're over here using our people and our resources and our stuff, and we're not getting any benefit out of it. Only they are. How could that happen? And what is going to happen? You see, what happens with borders is they sell off everything they have. Now the guy, let's say it's Mr. Border himself. Mr. Border owns 500 stores, or 400, or whatever it was. 400 stores all across America. He owns those. He owns all the books in them. He owns all the cash registers. He owns all the cups of coffee and the Wi-Fi access. He can go in. Mr. Borders can go in any Border store, read any book. He can color in the pages if he wants to, because it's his book. But not anymore, because he borrowed too much money and he can't pay it back. So now all those books, he doesn't own them anymore, and the coffee and the Wi-Fi and the fixtures and the nice Borders sign, he doesn't own that anymore. It's not his. He has nothing. And somebody else comes in and takes it over, just like the Circuit City and these others. It doesn't belong to them anymore. They don't. He doesn't have a right to say what goes on in those buildings anymore. Are you getting where I'm going? America wants to borrow more money. We want to become deeper and deeper and deeper in debt without the ability to pay it off. What's going to happen? The Bible tells us what's going to happen. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 7. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Now, do you believe the Bible? I do. I believe biblical principles. I believe that they're right. I believe that they're right 100% of the time. I believe that they never pass away. I believe that they were true 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, and I believe that they're still true today. And it doesn't really take a rocket scientist to figure out that if you loan somebody a bunch of money, and they can't pay it back, they're going to owe you for a long time. And back in the old days, if you owed somebody a bunch of money and couldn't pay it back, then you moved out of your house and you moved into their farm and you went out and picked their peas and herded their cattle and slopped their hogs. That's what you did. You became their servant. The United States of America used to be the head. The greatest nation in the entire earth. What happened? What happened to us? Well, we forgot God. We forgot that righteousness exalted a nation. That's what we forgot. And so we decided that gay marriage was more important than anything else. We decided that giving homosexuals not just rights, but special guaranteed protections that nobody else has. We decided that that was what we wanted as a nation more than we wanted anything else. We decided that it was better for our children to learn witchcraft, sorcery, winter solstice, and alternative lifestyles, including transsexualism. We decided that